We're a community in Rostrevor. We're living under one roof. For some time now we have been wanting to create a space where we can worship together and have some kind of message, and after a couple of weeks decided we wanted to share it with you as well. As I said, we are living under one roof and we are taking every precaution to stay safe during this time of lockdown, and we hope that you are too. Now we have Fra and Bree and Zach with a bit of worship. We hope you enjoy.
Peace, bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break at your name. Still, call the sea to still, the raging me to still every wave at your name. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. We call these bones to live, call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise, breathe, call these bones to live, call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is a light forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. your dwelling place, O Lord Almighty. For my soul longs and even faints for you. For here my heart is satisfied within your presence. I'll sing beneath the shadow of your wings. But better is the one day in your courts, better is the one day in your house, better is the one day in your courts, thousands elsewhere. Better is the one day in your courts, better is the one day in your house, better is the one day in your courts, thousands elsewhere, thousands elsewhere. One thing I ask, and I would seek to see your beauty, to find you in the place your glory dwells in my heart. For here my heart is satisfied within your presence, and I'll sing beneath the shadow of your wings. Better is the one day in your courts, better is the one day in your house, better is the one day in your courts, thousands elsewhere. Better is the one day in your courts, better is the one day in your house, better is the one day in your courts, thousands elsewhere. My heart and flesh cry out for you, the living God. Your spirit's water to my soul. I've tasted and I've seen. Come once again to me. I will draw near to you. I will draw near to you. For better is one day, better is one day my soul. Your word is a lamp to my feet. Jesus, I love you. I love you. Jesus, we love you. We 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 love you.
We hope you enjoyed that worship. We now have a short message from Johnny Clark.
Hi there, I've been asked to share a few reflections on peace and justice, and coincidentally I was also asked to make a video with some reflections on Isaiah 58. So I'm actually making two videos, but in both of them I'm going to use a little bit of Isaiah 58. So peace and justice. I'm sitting here in Northern Ireland. I'm actually right on the Irish border. As I look out the window, which you can't see, I can see the Republic of Ireland, which is separated by a body of water called Carlingford Lough. Behind us is a mural that I asked a friend of ours to paint a few years ago. I asked her to paint a mural of what it looks like, what reconciliation looks like. Kind of, I suppose, what peace looks like in a sense, because peace is part of reconciliation. And she had taken a photo of a friend of ours who's a Kenyan born but grew up in Northern Ireland. And she'd taken a photo of Charlotte, and Charlotte had a rose in her hair, and at one point she said, "Charlotte, put the rose in your ear." And so she did and took a photo. And as she was reflecting on the mural, what she should paint that somehow embodied reconciliation, she thought of that picture because she thought the ability to listen well, the beautiful listening, is part of what peace is about. And in many ways, as I start to kind of just share a few reflections here, I just want to say our capacity to bring peace into the world is directly proportionate to our capacity to listen to voices that are often unheard. Can we listen to their voices? Can we listen to them well? Can we hear the heart cry often for people? Isaiah 58 is a chapter of the Bible that challenges kind of self-righteous people to turn away from a kind of a way of external holiness while ignoring the plight of their brothers and sisters who are impoverished and in poverty. In Isaiah 58 it says, "Is this not the kind of fasting I've chosen, to loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke? Is it not to share food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them." And then it goes down, it says, "Then your light will break forth like the dawn and your healing will quickly appear." What Isaiah 58 is saying there is that our capacity, our healing is directly connected to our dealing with injustice, and is directly connected to the plight of the poor in our midst. Gandhi said, "There is no way to peace. Peace is the way." We look at our societies. I look at Northern Ireland here. We have a history of, depending on how you look at it, 800 years of division and even oppression. What is the path of peace in Ireland? What's the path of peace in America? What's the path of peace in countries all over the world where there's been history, kind of dirty history that sometimes we want to keep hidden? The path to peace is not some kind of journey where we suddenly arrive at this beautiful place. The beautiful place is the journey. That is the destiny. The journey we are on is the way of peace. We make decisions for peace all the way along. But in the Bible, peace is a word we call shalom. It doesn't mean the absence of violence. It means the presence of everything being the way it's meant to be. It means health, wholeness, fullness, fulfillment, life. I often talk about my car. If my car is at peace, it's sitting in the driveway with the engine turned off. In the English word peace, that's it, at peace. The engine's turned off, it's making no noise. But if my car is at shalom, it means the engine is turned on, I'm driving down the road, I'm changing gears, all my lights work, all the gears work perfectly. The car is working perfectly. That's a car at shalom. And in many ways, sometimes the peace we look for in our societies is a bit like a car with its engine turned off. It's a kind of a fake peace. It's not really good for anything. The car that's sitting in the driveway that's with the engine turned off is good for nothing other than sitting in it if it's raining. But it's not going to take you anywhere. A car at shalom is actually useful. It will take you somewhere and it won't break down. If we want to live in a society that looks like the society Jesus wanted us to create, it means we don't create a society that's just got a kind of a fake peace. We actively look for ways to bring God's shalom into our societies. 15 years ago, I started to work in one of the most dangerous parts of Belfast, in a place where we had massive walls that separate Protestant British people from Catholic Irish people. And we started to rent houses on both sides of the wall and create a community in both of those places. We were actively trying to not just create a peace that was about the absence of war, but trying to create life-giving community in each of these places. We started a breakfast club for young kids in Belfast that came from homes where they were lucky just to get a candy bar and a can of Coca-Cola in the morning before school. They were coming to school with a love deficit and with a massive overdose of sugar. So we started to give breakfast every morning for 8 years to little kids who didn't have a decent breakfast. After the breakfast, we'd play games with them, give them a hug, and they'd go to school in a bit better way. We were trying to be the hands and feet of Jesus to people who really needed it. The story's told of a mother tucking her baby into bed and her little child, 3-year-old kid, like one of my kids was a few years back. The kid looks up at his mom and says, "Mom, I'm having bad dreams." And the mom looks down and says, "Listen, just pray to Jesus, he'll make the bad dreams go away." And the little kid looks up at his mom and says, "Yeah, but Mom, sometimes I need Jesus with skin on." And the reality is, when we moved to Belfast in 2002 and into the community that we moved into, we realized that our calling was to be Jesus with skin on, to give Jesus flesh and blood in the world, to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And that's what it means to start to bring shalom to your society, to find ways to tangibly reach out and touch people that need us. We started to offer scholarships to young people from areas of conflict, because we believe that part of the healing of Belfast would not just be us looking in on ourselves, but looking outwards at other people. We started to bring Lebanese people, Palestinians, Israelis, South Africans, to come and live in our community, to train with us, and then go back to their own communities to multiply it. Just last month, the very first Lebanese guy we ever brought to be with us in Belfast, he was with us for 5 years. He's been working now for Peace and Reconciliation in Lebanon for a number of years. He was just donated £250,000 to build a peace center in the south of Lebanon. When he came to Belfast, he was a fairly uneducated, skinny young Lebanese guy with no hopes really in the world. Today, he is building a peace center that's going to transform his nation. Now, I didn't do all that, but at one point I did say yes to what God's dream might be. That in a broken part of Belfast, it could become a stream of living water to some of the driest desert places in the world, places like Lebanon, where there's been civil war for years. I don't know where you are today. You may feel like you're in a desert. Where does God want you to look outward from yourself to find ways in which you can be the hands and feet of Jesus? Where should you be looking out of yourself to other people? Richard Beck, in his book Unclean, talks about how in the Old Testament in Leviticus, we have these dietary food laws. It says, don't touch food because you will become unclean. But he says Jesus changed all that. When Jesus walked through the world with flesh and blood, he didn't abstain from touching lepers and those who were sinful and dirty in some way. He touched them. And what happened? He didn't become unclean. Rather, the person he touched became clean. Jesus turned Leviticus on his head. And today, We need to turn it on its head and not become people who seek to hide away from the brokenness in the world, to hide from systems of injustice and kind of live in a fake peace and say peace, peace, where there really is no peace. We need to be people who actively look outwards to the people and systems that are broken, where there's injustice, and pursue, as Gandhi called it, the way of peace. And as we do that, as we seek to be the hands and feet of Jesus, touching those, we believe actually we have the capacity in Jesus to see them become clean. I hope that it's not meant to sound like some kind of complicated mathematical equation. It's really simple. We get to be Jesus with skin on to people who need to see the hands and feet of Jesus. They need not just to see it or hear it, they need to feel it and touch it. Because if we do that, our light will break forth like the dawn, and our healing will quickly appear. So I pray for you, wherever you are, that you'll know the way of peace right now, what steps you're meant to take to be the hands and feet of Jesus into systems and situations where there's brokenness and pain. And may you be Jesus with skin on. And as you do it, you'll be bringing peace and you'll be bringing justice in your society. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny Clark, for that message. To everyone at home who'd like to know a bit more about what we do here at Rostrevor and beyond, we had a live broadcast last week called YWAM-a-thon. It was a series of presentations, of performances, of interviews, and we had videos with our focus nations, those who we partner with abroad. So there'll be a link in the description, and there you can find out ways that you can support us if you wish. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it.